FLM, wide open thinking, world-class work, and far-reaching results. Now with locations in Minneapolis, Columbus, Indianapolis, and Washington, D.C. A strategic marketing and communications company dedicated to serving clients who specialize in the business of agriculture and the life of rural communities.
Thank you for joining us for our Agri-Pulse Washington Week in Review. I'm Spencer Chase, flying solo this week as Agri-Pulse Senior Editor Phil Brasher is out of town, but still a lot of news to talk about in Washington this week, particularly as it pertains to agriculture. And want to start off with really the big news out of Washington this week. Senate action, or kind of lack thereof, on a GMO labeling bill. There was a markup on the chairman's mark scheduled for Thursday, but on Wednesday afternoon that markup was postponed until next Tuesday. And I had a chance to catch up with Senate Agriculture Committee Chairman Pat Roberts of Kansas just a few minutes ago to talk about the progress of that bill, as well as the progress of just GMO labeling concept as a whole in Congress. Talking with Senate Agriculture Committee Chairman Pat Roberts of Kansas. And Chairman, there was supposed to be a little more action out of your committee this week than there ended up being. There was a postponed markup of a GMO labeling bill that was scheduled for Thursday, now rescheduled for the following Tuesday. Where do things stand right now on that legislation?
Well, that was an accommodation that we always try to have in the Agriculture Committee. I think probably the Ag Committee is the least partisan of any committee in the Senate. That's a good thing because we have to work on behalf of our farmers and ranchers and the food industry and everybody else concerned in a bipartisan way. And so when the distinguished ranking member, Senator Stabenow, said that I have a little problem with Flint, Michigan on the floor, and we all expected votes, and also on the energy bill, that was in direct conflict with our markup. To accommodate her, I postponed the markup until Tuesday. We will mark up 10 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday.
So any bill that's going to get through the United States Senate is going to need to do so with 60 votes.
Right.
And you don't have that in the Republican Party alone, so you're going to have to attract some form of Democratic support. What's it going to take? What kind of language do you think it's going to take in this bill to get the support of enough Democrats to get you up and over 60?
I don't know, but you pretty well summarized it. I may hire you to work the floor for me, do a count. I think in the end result, I know that people know that we have to act. We have 652 different organizations from the food industry and from farmers and ranchers, virtually every farm organization, every commodity group, 652. I have never seen a number like that in behalf of what we have to do, which is to preempt Vermont's attempt to put their label on everything that is involved in the farm-to-market system. So everybody knows that we have to have preemption, or if they don't, they're going to soon know, because everybody is here in Washington trying to point that out. I said before that we have sort of an ankle prairie fire. That's knee-high now. When it gets hip-high, well, maybe we have enough support to really get that done. But we're going to try, this is a chairman's mark that is before the committee, but it's open to amendment. So I think that in the end result, we hope to have that Democrat support.
Now, you mentioned amendments. Agri-Pulse's Bill Thompson has learned that there are some folks that are considering adding a voluntary cool provision to this bill, either in committee or when it would get to the Senate floor. I know you've been a staunch opponent of cool, but what would your opinions be if a voluntary cool provision were to make its way onto this bill?
We've already considered cool with regards to Mexico and Canada. I don't think we want to be raising that WTO flag again. This is not the proper place. We need to address the issue at hand, which is the labeling bill, and so we'll be considering that.
So looking forward, let's say hypothetically speaking that we get through Tuesday, you get the bill through the committee, no problem. Have you had any conversations with the majority leader about when this bill might move and whether it'll move standalone or as a part of a bigger piece of legislation?
Well, the majority leader is like everybody else. He has a lot of folks from Kentucky, and he is the majority leader, so obviously your food companies and farm organizations do mean a lot to him, and he knows the issue. Very last thing he said at our last chairman's mark, he said, "Pat, you will fix this, won't you?" And I said, "Sure, leader, be happy to." So I don't think there's going to be much alternative. We may have to be in a situation when we go to the floor that we're still trying to get more Democrats to come aboard, and for that matter, Republicans from the Northeast. So It's a work in progress, but the first thing we have to do is get the bill out of committee. But we do have assurance by the majority leader. We'd like to have enough Democrats to get 60, obviously, and so we'll work toward that goal. As soon as we get that, well, I'm sure the leader will say, let's go ahead.
And obviously, if and when you're going to move, this is something that's, I imagine, going to happen at some point this spring to prevent companies from drafting new labels.
We should have done this months ago. I mean, every food company that has come in has indicated, and every farmer and rancher knows this as well, in terms of their, what they do with their marketing, with regard to when they sell their crop and when they don't. And so if you have a situation where you have a shelf life of 12 months, and now we're looking at 3 or 4 maybe, they have had to make a decision costing millions of dollars of what they do with their product. Interestingly enough, I think the corn folks have estimated that's over $1,000 for a family of 4 a year for their market basket of food if we had to pay for the Vermont labeling.
So are we looking at a main sticking point of voluntary versus mandatory disclosure, or are other issues kind of working their way into the bill as well?
Well, I think it's a little premature. What we want to do is, number one, hold the markup. And then we have the markup language, the chairman's mark. And then from that time, there's probably several challenges, I won't call them problems, because I think everybody realizes that it's a little early to talk about some of the alternatives that we might take. But goodness knows our staffs have met hour after hour after hour. They've really been diligent to try to work through this. So I'm just looking for a good result at the end.
Over on the House side, House Agriculture Committee Chairman Mike Conaway hosted a hearing with Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack, and this was really the first chance that those two had to speak, at least publicly, since Secretary Vilsack ruled that he did not have the authority under the Farm Bill to act under the cotton oilseed provision that House Agriculture Committee Chair Mike Conaway and many others were hoping for, to add cottonseed as another oilseed under some Farm Bill programs. And here's a video of the exchange that the two had at the hearing.
Thank the Secretary for being here. I didn't intend to go here, but Mr. Secretary, I wasn't in those rooms with Chairman Lucas and Chairman Peterson. I wasn't there, but I don't think there was any reference to cottonseed, period, during the Farm Bill negotiations. None. And so to rely on something that didn't happen, I think you've been misled. And so I just don't think that that was the case, that cottonseed didn't come up until these dire consequences arose, until it was shown that the stacks program, 14% of cotton was covered by stacks. That was nowhere near what the estimate that folks thought was going to be. It's not working. And so the cottonseed thing, to my references, came up late last year as a potential to put seed under the program and not lint. And I don't think you're arguing that seed and lint are the same thing. They come from the same plant. But this idea that somehow there was a negotiation on seed specifically during the Farm Bill negotiations, I believe it's incorrect.
Mr. Chair, can I respond?
Sure. Yes, sir.
First of all, in putting together the ARC and PLC program, there was obviously a decision to remove cotton from those programs. I think everybody acknowledges that. Within the law, essentially there is provisions that define the opportunity for the Secretary to include additional oil seeds as crops as they evolve. That listing of other oil seeds includes a variety of other oil seeds. It includes sunflower seeds, rape seeds, canola seeds. Clearly, Congress could have also included cottonseed in that list. They did not. That's an issue. Secondly, the industry came to us when we were crafting the risk management program under stacks and requested oilseed to be included in that risk management program. So those two facts, Congress didn't include it in the list, and the industry asked us to include it in the risk management program, indicate what the intent was at the time. Now, if Congress wants to reopen the Farm Bill, then obviously you'll have to deal with the issue of the cost, which I think is one of the motivating reasons why all of this was established.
I appreciate that, Mr. Secretary. That was a discussion you may have had or may not have had with cotton folks then. That's not discussion that Congress had. Are you arguing that the list of oil seeds included is exclusive and that you have no discretion?
No, what I'm arguing is that that list and that provision is set up for oil seeds that arise during the course and between farm bills.
And how's the, where are you getting that interpretation?
Because that is the way in which this provision has been interpreted and utilized since its inception.
Okay, so it wasn't new to the 14 Farm Bill.
No, we have used this before
Right,
when seeds come, not seeds that have existed, Mr. Chairman, but seeds that have come up in between farm bills to allow us the flexibility.
So sunflower seeds are brand new to the 08, I mean, they didn't exist before 08? I mean, we gave you the discretion in order to use that discretion to look at new circumstances and
Not in this particular circumstance. You gave me the discretion to use it if something crops up that was under.
Something cropping up like the unexpected economic impact that the
No.
14 bill didn't do? That wouldn't be unexpected?
No, that's why we have CCC, and that's why it was unfortunate that Congress put the prohibition in the omnibus budget bill that restricts me from using CCC. I'm more than happy to do that, remove that prohibition, and we can set up a program to help cotton farmers in the interim, and then you can revisit this issue specifically when you debate the next farm bill.
So, but for the restrictions in CCC, it was done in 2011 in response to the things that the agency did in 2010. You could list cottonseed as a other oilseed.
Couldn't list cottonseed, but we could create a program that would provide help and assistance in the interim.
All right, and there are no other programs that you can do without that?
The other issue that we talked about was the cost share program with.
And why have you not done that?
Well, because you've indicated to us that you weren't interested in us pursuing that.
Well, but you've already decided that you know what we're interested in or not interested in. If you've got the sole discretion.
I don't, sir. I don't.
To do the cost share program.
I don't.
Well, why?
You have to give me that discussion. You have to give me that direction because you excluded it from the previous. I don't think cottonseed was discussed in the 2014 Farm Bill. You had the opportunity, and it was certainly discussed in terms of the establishment of the risk management program when we were specifically told to include cottonseed in that program. Look, Mr. Chairman, I think the easiest thing to do right now is not for us to continue to have this discussion, but for us to figure out a way in which that prohibition in CCC could be removed, because that would allow us the most immediate way of providing help and assistance in addition to the cost share, the ginning.
Well, I've had some preliminary discussions with the Appropriations Committee. There's some historical issues with respect to the use of that, that gave rise to why that restriction has been in there since 2012. So anyway, my time has expired. We'll have a second round, perhaps.
Now, there were some other topics that were covered at that hearing. I'm not going to dive too deeply into those right now. If you're looking for a deeper write-up of that hearing in particular, Agri-Pulse.com does have an article up on that subject. But I also just want to finish up today talking about something that's very near and dear to my heart personally and a lot of other folks out there as well. It's FFA week this week, and you may have noticed when I was talking to Chairman Roberts, he had an FFA lapel pin on his jackets, and I had a chance to talk to him about FFA and how he sees that as it pertains to the future of agriculture. So, Chairman, we understand that you're wearing the FFA lapel pin here. Big supporter of Kansas FFA, and it is FFA week.
Yes, it is. 9,000 young people do a great job.
And I understand you've seen, I saw a picture on one of your social media feeds earlier this week of you with some blue jackets in your office. What do you think the National FFA organization means for the future of American agriculture?
That's who they are. They are the future of agriculture. I try to remind them of that and say this falls to every generation, and that their sense of idealism and just who they are. They're young people who are very successful. They are very well educated. They really know the issues, and so they can go into any office here on Capitol Hill, Senate, or over there in the House, and they can tell the story. And whether it is a staff aide, I hope they get to meet with a member, and they should get to meet with a member. But they're very influential. They're our force and readiness. How about that? Speaking as a Marine.
Also this week had Agriculture Outlook Forum. If you're looking for some more coverage, we do have that on Agri-Pulse.com. Long story short, planted acres are down as well as prices, so it'll be an interesting year in the farm economy going forward. That's going to do it for this week's Agri-Pulse Washington Week in Review. Certainly appreciate Chairman Pat Roberts joining us, as well as the staffs of the House and Senate Agriculture Committees for their help with this video. Until next week, I'm Spencer Chase. Have a good one.